Welcome back to the 5th episode of this 10-part series about metacognitive therapy, where we in each video cover a concept or a tool that's commonly used within MCT. So today's video marks the transition from the awareness aspect of MCT into the regulation aspect. In the last 3 videos, we've covered the awareness side, where we've worked on gaining an understanding and an awareness of the different underlying processes that we see in metacognition. Now, like I said in the very first introduction video to the series, both the awareness and the regulation side are equally important to gaining the best possible results from the treatment approach. So if you've not already seen the first videos of this series, I do recommend that you pause this video and go back and do so before you move on with this one. They're only about 5 minutes each, but they'll really help give you that foundation and understanding of the underlying metacognitive processes that we're gonna build onto today. If you're all caught up and ready to move on to the regulation aspect of MCT, then you're in the right place. It's in this regulation part of the series that we start to look at methods and techniques that we can use to start altering our relationship with our thoughts. We're kicking this portion of the series off with a really important concept in metacognitive therapy: detached mindfulness. So as we already know, the overall goal of MCT is to change the relationship that we have with our thoughts. This is where detached mindfulness comes in handy. Through practicing detached mindfulness, we can break free from unhelpful patterns of overthinking, including rumination and worrying, that are often seen in disorders like anxiety and depression. It aims to reduce the intensity and impact of negative thoughts through altering the way that we relate to our thoughts. So the overall aim of detached mindfulness is to develop our meta-awareness. In other words, it helps us to be aware of the contents of our minds so that we can separate ourselves from them when they flood our mind and cause us pain. We'll have a closer look at how we do that in just a moment. But before we go any further, let's quickly address the differences and similarities between detached mindfulness and traditional mindfulness. While they are similar, they do have different focus points and aims to each other. So I bet many of you are already familiar with traditional mindfulness. It emphasizes being fully present and aware of your thoughts, feelings and sensations in a non-judgmental way. Now, if we add the definition of detached to this, we pretty much get the gist of the uniqueness of detached mindfulness. So by detached, we understand that we're unconnected and non-involved. Detachment implies separation and objectivity. So when we combine these two aspects of mindfulness and detachment, we get a state where we observe our thoughts without interacting or engaging with them. It's encouraging a stance of non-reactivity. We do not react to or engage with our thoughts during detached mindfulness. This is in contrast to traditional mindfulness, which often involves direct engagement with your thoughts to foster acceptance and presence. So while traditional mindfulness seeks to cultivate a heightened awareness and acceptance of the present moment to improve overall well-being, detached mindfulness aims specifically at reducing the impact of negative thoughts and emotions by changing our relationship with our thoughts. This is particularly useful in breaking patterns of overthinking like worrying and rumination. So when practicing detached mindfulness, there are 3 main principles to be aware of. The first one is observing without engagement. So in detached mindfulness, we objectively observe our thoughts just as events in the mind without interacting or engaging with them. It's like watching the clouds pass in the sky. We notice their presence but let them drift by without attachment. The second principle is non-judgmental awareness. Now this is a principle that detached mindfulness shares with traditional mindfulness. This non-judgmental awareness means recognizing and accepting our thoughts without labeling them as good or bad or right or wrong. The third and final key principle of detached mindfulness is recognition of thought as being thought. So the aim of this principle is to help us understand that our thoughts are not a representation of any reality. They are just interpretations and constructions of the mind. Detached mindfulness also teaches us that thoughts are fleeting. They will pass again if not engaged with. The purpose of this is realizing that our thoughts don't hold any meaning in and of themselves and that they don't define us. By acknowledging the fleeting nature of thought, we can reduce their impact and avoid getting caught up in prolonged negative thinking cycles. When we practice detached mindfulness, it can help us to enhance self-regulation. It gives us a better understanding of our reactions to thoughts and emotional experiences. By By practicing detached mindfulness, we can learn to observe our trigger thoughts, which hopefully you remember from the second video of the series, without engaging with them. Instead of reacting automatically to the trigger thoughts, we develop the ability to notice these thoughts just as mental events, reducing their power to trigger unhelpful metacognitive processes. Detached mindfulness can also help us in challenging and changing our metacognitive beliefs, which we covered in the third video of the series. By viewing our thoughts as fleeting and by not engaging with them, we experience firsthand that thoughts are harmless and controllable. This contradicts and weakens negative metacognitive beliefs. The second benefit of practicing detached mindfulness is that it helps us to break the CAS cycle. Remember CAS that we covered in last week's video? Well, detached mindfulness directly counteracts the components of CAS. By promoting a non-engagement stance to thoughts and worries, it breaks the cycle of extended thinking. It also reduces the tendency for threat monitoring, as we learn to view our thoughts as not necessarily indicative of real problems or threats. And through these first 2 points where we learn to deal with our trigger thoughts, our metacognitive beliefs, and the CAS cycle, it ultimately helps us reduce rumination and worry. By observing thoughts without attachment, we're less likely to engage in unproductive cycles of rumination and worry. It also helps us alleviate emotional distress. So again, detachment from thoughts leads to a reduction in the intensity and the impact of negative emotions. A key point of detached mindfulness is that trying to suppress a thought only makes it stronger. For example, if you try to not think about a pink elephant, you'll probably be unable to stop thinking about one. Therefore, whenever you try to suppress or control a thought, you often achieve the opposite effect. Instead, in detached mindfulness, you should let your mind wander freely. Observe any thoughts that come along without trying to exercise any control over them. When practicing detached mindfulness, you can choose to simply do it from free association, where you pay attention to your thoughts without judging them and without interacting with them. So you simply let your mind wander using the 3 key principles that we covered before. However, I do sometimes see, especially if you're new to practicing detached mindfulness, that it can feel a little abstract and a bit difficult to do. If you find that, it might be helpful to use metaphors or exercises as a guide. Today I'll share just a couple of the most well-known exercises to practice in detached mindfulness. The first one we refer to as the tiger task. If you like, you can try it out for yourself. Imagine a tiger. Now think about what that tiger is doing in your mind without trying to influence its behavior in any way. Observe how the tiger seems to have its own behavior. Watch the images in your mind of the tiger, knowing that they're simply thoughts in your head that seem to come without you prompting them. Feel free to pause the video here if you want a bit more time observing the tiger in your mind. Now, the purpose of this exercise is for you to be aware that your thoughts are spontaneous and that they're different from your own essence as an individual. The tiger seemingly taking on a life of its own shows us that our thoughts are passive and involuntary. This tiger task is a good way of experiencing detached mindfulness, as we find ourselves simply observing the tiger's behavior. Let's do one more. Imagine that you're standing on the platform of a station watching the trains go by. Now imagine that each train is a thought. One after another, the trains enter the station and leave again. The point of this metaphor is to develop your ability to observe your thoughts at a distance without trying to stop them. If you at any point during this exercise find that you're engaging with a thought, or in the metaphor that you've boarded a train and you're no longer standing on the platform, you can choose to get off the train again, to let the thought go, and to again objectively observe them from the platform. This metaphor can be really helpful in helping us return to an objective observer state if we find ourselves getting caught up in negative thoughts. If we realize that we're engaging in a thought that we no longer wish to be engaged in, we can simply choose to get off the train and return to the platform. Practicing detached mindfulness can be really challenging at first, especially if you're someone who's used to engaging with every thought you have. It is a skill that develops with practice, so try to be patient with yourself and practice regularly, even if it's just for a couple of minutes each day. There are lots of different metaphors and exercises that can help guide us through detached mindfulness, and it's crucial to find the one that resonates with you and works the best for you. If you're interested, I can do another video sharing more examples of these. Let me know by liking the video or commenting below. So in summary, detached mindfulness is a crucial concept of MCT that helps us to relate to our thoughts in a different way. It helps us dismantle the often automatic and unhelpful patterns of metacognitive processes. By fostering a detached and non-reactive stance towards trigger thoughts, challenging unhelpful cognitive beliefs, and disrupting the caste cycle. Detached mindfulness enables us to gain more control over our mental health, leading to reduced distress and overall improved mental well-being. In the video next week, we're continuing the series about metacognitive therapy by covering attentional training technique, or ATT for short. ATT is another important therapeutic intervention that's often used in MCT. I upload new psychological insights, tips, and tools on this channel every single week. If you're not already, I'd love for you to subscribe so we can meet again. Thank you for watching this one. Take care and bye for now.